Peace and Black Power family. Is your brother Sutek, deaf to the Negro. I want to give a shout out to my brother Sarnetta and my whole House of Consciousness family. I want to give a shout out to my brothers at Do the Knowledge Radio. Also want to give a shout out to my brothers at Know the Ledge. Last but not least, I want to give a shout out to my little brother Mula Verde. I'm doing this video today because I'm really disgusted at what's going on. Alright? And I'm talking to the conscious community. Not going to call you the so-called conscious community because I think that's really disrespectful. Alright? I saw the people out there at the Million Man March. That's the conscious community. And I would have to believe that there's at least 5 to 10 times more people who wanted to go that was unable to go. Alright? So that's our community. And we are a large community. And I'm disgusted with us because, number one, the narrative that's coming out of this conscious community is very, very depressing. We're not making any progress with this black liberation movement, so-called movement. I'm going to call that so-called because there's no movement in it, all right? This black liberation movement can't be a movement because there's no movement in the thing, all right? We got scholars masquerading as leaders, and we got leaders that aren't leading you anywhere because they don't know what they're fighting against. And I'm here today to try to add some clarity from my perspective, okay? And I'm open to criticism on this, all right? But in my mind, this is how I see it. And I'm coming to the family to express my views and to get some feedback on this. Like I said, we got scholars masquerading as leaders. Nowhere in history that I've studied have scholars been leaders of a people. And that's what we have. And the stuff that we are impressed by from these scholars is really, really amazing. A scholar can only take you as far as his level of study in a specific subject. That's not leadership. Alright? Scholars teach, leaders lead. So, we have to put our scholars in their proper place and let them do what they do. Our leadership has us like a dog chasing his tail. Number one, they don't understand the climate of which they are trying to lead you. They don't have a goal, a destination on what they're trying to reach. And number three, they're using 1955, 1960 rhetoric and tactics to accomplish something in 2015. That's not going to happen. All right? I say they don't know where they're going because their whole methodology of what they're supposedly fighting against, they don't have an understanding of it. And if they do have an understanding of it and they're not approaching it or attacking it in the proper way, that lets you know that, look, your leadership is going to be ineffective. And the proof is in the pudding that the leadership is ineffective because we're not making any progress. They're trying to tell you, oh, we're making progress, but we got a long way to go. You're not making any progress. Don't tell me you're making progress. That's not progress. I'm not one of those people that like to quote others, but my man Malcolm, he gave me the perfect analogy. He said, if you put a knife 9 inches in my back and pull it out 7 inches, that's not progress. All right? The only progress is when the wound heals, and your wounds haven't healed. I say your leaders don't know what they're doing. There's 3 areas that they seem to have the most issue with. That's prejudice, racism, and white supremacy. And they claim to be in the struggle to fight prejudice, racism, and white supremacy. And I'm here to tell you today, you don't fight those things. You don't fight racism, you don't fight white supremacy, and you don't fight prejudice. Number one, I hate to tell you this, there's nothing you can do about prejudice. There's nothing you can do about somebody prejudging you, especially when you don't control any of the media outlets. All right? Because it's in this day and age, it's media that's shaping people's perceptions of people, places, and things. And when you don't control the media or any facet of the media, you won't have any influence in trying to change people's perceptions of you so that you can change them from prejudging you in a way that they're currently prejudging you. I just said a lot. Rewind that, replay it. So there's nothing you can do about people being prejudiced. You're prejudiced about it. You have prejudices. You understand what I'm saying? So people are going to have prejudices. There's nothing you can do about that. Racism. You don't fight racism. Racism is people trying to stay in control of what they have created, developed, stay in control of what they control. You understand? You don't fight racism by protesting and demonstrating. You fight racism by eliminating your dependency on the racist. If you don't depend on the racist, that's why black people are crying about racism, because we totally depend on the racist. If we eliminate our dependency on the racist, you won't hear us crying about racism. You don't hear Chinese people crying about racism. You don't hear Hispanics crying about racism. You don't hear Arabs crying about racism. You don't hear Japanese crying about racism. So you don't fight racism. You eliminate your dependency on the racist. Now, that's easier said than done, but that's what you do. And there's ways to do it. Listen, we have enough smart black people out here, and I'm one of them, that can devise a plan to eliminate our dependency on racism, on the racist. I mean, it's not, look, what I'm telling you is not rocket science. This is something you can sit back and think about it. But see, we're not putting any critical thinking to our situation. Our whole reaction to things is emotional. We get emotional about things and we react instead of sit back thinking strategically on how to handle our situation as a people. And I'm speaking directly to the conscious community right now, because we're the ones who're supposed to know better. We're the ones who're supposed to be the spokespeople for Black America. We're supposed to be the vanguard for Black America. And instead, you got the Black church being the vanguard and the spokespeople for Black America. And we know how we feel about that, because we know the message that's coming out of that. And we know where that has gotten us for the past 400 years. Hasn't gotten us anywhere. Matter of fact, it's only made our situation worse. You understand? It's only made our situation worse. Now, Did they know they were going to make our situation worse? I don't know. I'm not going to accuse them of doing anything deliberate. However, the results are the same. You understand? And we can get into that discussion at another time. Right now, I want to specifically deal with prejudice. Like I said, there's nothing you can do about it. I want to deal with racism and white supremacy. More so white supremacy, because people seem to think that those are one and the same things, when racism and white supremacy are two entirely different things. Okay? If you go to China, you as a black man go to China, you're going to experience very similar condition, situation, and attitude towards you as you get from white people here. If you go to Japan, you're going to experience very similar attitudes and treatment from Japanese as you would from white people here. If you go to any of the Middle Eastern countries, you're going to experience many of the same attitudes and treatment that you get from white people here. And I'd hate to say this, but I believe it's true that if you went to many of the nations in Africa, African American, you would receive a lot of the attitude and treatment that you get from white people here. I mean, I've seen videos of blacks in South Africa setting a black man on fire from Zimbabwe because he came there looking for work. All right? Listen, I've seen in the news how one group of Africans treat another group of Africans. Muslims treating Christians. Christians treating Muslims. I've had brothers who go to Africa on a regular tell me, yo, if you went to Africa talking that Jesus shit that you talking, they would stone you in the street. You understand? So, these are truths that we have to deal with. I know it's not popular to say that type of shit, but these are truths that we have to deal with, all right? So, racism and white supremacy are two entirely different things, and they have to be dealt with two entirely different ways. Like I said, the way you deal with racism is you eliminate your dependency on the racist. Now, white supremacy. I had my book here by Neely Fuller. A lot of people think that book by Neely Fuller is the Bible on white supremacy, and I'm here to tell you that it's not. It's a good book, very informative, but it's not the Bible on white supremacy, because see, in that book he has white supremacy and racism being the same thing, and it's not. All right? And in the book, he doesn't tell you why white supremacy was developed. All right? What was the purpose of white supremacy? The purpose of white supremacy was not to oppress black people and people of color. The purpose of white supremacy was to uplift white people. Let me say that again. The purpose, follow me here, the purpose of white supremacy was not to oppress black people and people of color. It was to uplift white people. White supremacy is the white man's attempt at following the first law of nature. Only the strong survive. Survival of the fittest. Survival of the species. However you want to put it. But that's what white supremacy was designed for. Okay? It was designed by the elites to get the masses to think of themselves in a way so that they can do combat with others. So that they can be supreme on the planet, because the white man knows and he fears genetic annihilation. He knows that he is a minority on the planet. Okay? We walking around this country talking about we minorities, we're minorities, but in terms of the planet, he's a minority. All right? White supremacy is psychological warfare. And you fight psychological warfare with psychological warfare. All right? That's one of the simplest ways to put it. Okay? Like I said, white supremacy was not designed to oppress black people or people of color. But it just so happens to have that effect. It has the opposite effect on black people and people of color that it has on white people. You don't fight white supremacy. By fighting white supremacy and racism, you fall right into what white supremacy and racism want you to do. So they want you to fight it because they know you can't win it because there's nothing to fight against. You can't tell me what the goal of fighting white supremacy looks like. Say you win. Say you win the fight against white supremacy. What does it look like? Does it look like white people saying, okay, I'm not better than you? That my woman isn't finer than yours? Is that what it looks like? Because if you can get white people to admit that, you're not going to get Chinese people to admit that. You're not going to get Japanese people to admit that. You're not going to get Arab people to admit that. Everybody thinks they're supreme. Except you, black man and woman. You don't think you're supreme. So what you want is everybody to dumb down to your level. And that ain't happening. You understand? That's not going to happen. You fight white supremacy. Well, you don't fight white supremacy. You contend with it. You compete with it. And you compete with white supremacy by teaching black supremacy. Getting white people to think they're not supreme is like trying to get Popeye not to eat spinach. It's like trying to get that black woman to take that weave out. That shit ain't happening. That is not happening. You understand? You fall right into the hands of the white supremacists by trying to fight it. And as a result, chase your tail. You're like a dog chasing his tail, trying to fight white supremacy. And the proof is, you've been fighting white supremacy for the past 200 years. And where are you today? At what point do you say, we need to try something else? I think that point is right now. Because see, there is a thing called, it's too late. Dr. Claude Anderson, in his book, Powernomics, said that the year 2012, it will be too late. That was his prediction. That in the year 2012, it will be too late for black people because we will be a permanent underclass in this country. I think he was right, but I think we have a little grace period because the laws they're trying to get passed haven't been passed. They're trying to bring 11 million undocumented aliens out of the shadows to compete directly with you, black man. To compete directly with you in this economy. But none of your leaders are talking about that. None of your leaders are talking about the impact that it's going to have on you specifically. And why? Because they don't know. Because they're too busy fighting white supremacy and racism instead of helping you reduce your dependency on the racists and teaching black supremacy. This is what's bothering me. This is why I say we don't have any leaders. We have scholars masquerading as leaders, and as a result, we're running around like a dog chasing his tail. I put out a video a while back, and not just because I did it, but I think that was one of the hottest, toughest, most informative videos out there, only because it deals with relevant information of the time, right now time, and it plans for the future. Everything else you're doing in this conscious community is talking about the past, talking about history, talking about how great they were in the past. But you ain't learning nothing from the history, because if you was learning anything from the history you studied, you'd be able to fix the problems today. You understand? That's why this cracker studies history. That's why everybody else studies history, so that they can predict what they're going to do in the future. But no, we just want to sit back and study history and talk about how great they were in ancient Kemet, and talk about how the Bible says we was the chosen people, and how the Quran says that the Allah is going to do this and that for us, and blah, 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 blah. And we sit back and we got no responsibility. We just sit back and wait. No, that's not how that shit is done. You dig it? We sitting around waiting for one person to come through and lead us somewhere. No, that's not how it's done. This liberation is not an individual sport. It's a team sport. You understand? Everybody's got to play their role. And I hate to tell you this. I don't hate to tell you this. I need to tell you this. It's not going to get done without no money. You understand? So all you money hoarding, money hating Negroes out there in the conscious community, you dig it? We need to figure out how we're going to get some money in this game. You dig it? Chief Justice Scalia just told you, black people, that you don't need to be in the University of Texas. You need to go to one of them slower schools. Texas is too advanced for you. You can't keep up. So he's reinforcing the stereotype that you ain't as smart as white folks. But yet, you still fighting to get into these white folks' schools. Why don't you take your historically black colleges and make them as good as these white schools? Why don't you do that? No, you just abandon what your ancestors set up for you to run to these white boy schools. You understand? Now, it takes money. So you say, well, Sutek, it takes money. How are we going to get the money in there? Well, what brings a lot of the money into these other schools? I'll wait. Athletics. Basketball and football brings millions and millions of dollars into these schools. Now, let me ask you a question. In the NBA, has 2 rounds of drafts. What if those kids went to black schools? You think the NBA would still find them and draft them? Huh? Absolutely. Because they're taking niggas out of high school. You understand what I'm saying? They would take you out of high school if they didn't change the rule. So it ain't like you got to go to one of these big colleges in order to get noticed. LeBron came straight out of high school. What if LeBron went to Howard? You understand? What kind of stadium could they build at Howard if LeBron went there? What kind of TV revenue would they have gotten if LeBron went to Howard? Kobe went to Morgan State. You dig it? Okafor went to Grambling. What if the historical black colleges had all of them black basketball players? You dig it? What if them black college football players, kid won the Heisman Trophy, what if he went to Grambling? You dig it? What if all them black kids said, you know what? We're going to go to these historically black colleges and we're going to play there. We're going to put our talents there. It ain't like the NFL won't find you. They found Randy Moss. You dig it? We got to stop thinking that the white shit is better than us. We got to build our shit up. We got to build up our schools and make them compete. Listen, like I said, conscious community is very big, but it has no organization. You drop something in your drink right now. Sutek for president of the conscious community. put me in place. I'll build the organization. I'll organize this conscious community. Because see, the work isn't going to be done in my lifetime. I know that. I'm going to be dead and gone. But we need to plant the seeds. We have to plant the seeds now. We have to build the structure. You understand? For our children. What are we going to leave our children? What's going to be our legacy? What are people going to say about you when you're dead and gone? You understand? What if when you die, you meet Malcolm, you meet Martin, you meet Amos, you meet Elijah? What they going to say to you? How they going to look at you? That's some spooky shit, I know. You understand? But I'm just trying to make a point that we have to dig in. You understand? We have gotten off track. From the civil rights movement to now, we have been off track of where our ancestors had led us to. They got us to a point, and we've been tricked to switch lanes. And the lane we moved into has gotten us nowhere. We need to go back to where our ancestors were strong and proceed from there. And I got the plan for it. And I know there's others out there. What I want to do right now, I want to put a call out to all the business, black business and economic groups in this country to hit me up. KSP2012BEYOND@gmail.com. That's KSP2012beyond@gmail.com. We gotta lead this. The economic groups has to lead this. Dr. Claude Anderson, if you listening, we need you. James Klingman, if you listening, we need you. You understand? We have to lead this. Yeah, everybody say, oh, economics isn't going to save you. No, economics isn't going to save us. But it's step number one. Everybody wants to jump to step number 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. But you got to start at step number 1. And step number 1 is economics. You understand? So, please, reach out to me. Let me quarterback this thing to the third quarter, halftime. I'll quarterback it to halftime. And we'll get this ball rolling. We'll make something happen. All the economic organizations out there. Listen, I ain't even got to be the quarterback. I'll be the halfback. You dig it? And if people are saying the right shit, I'll step aside. But we have to coalesce. We have to unify. We have to unite. You understand? You here, you here, you there, you there, you there, you there, without no lines to connect us is fruitless. We have to organize. So I want to start with the economic organizations, the business organizations. If we can just use me right now, my company, Comedic Science and Prosperity, as a conduit for all of us to come together. You don't lose your identity. I just want to be a conduit for us to come together so that we can speak, so that we can dialogue, so that we can develop a plan, so we can develop an economic policy for Black America and disseminate that information. We have to start taking a more strategic approach to our situation in this country. All right? We have to stop acting on emotion. The boycott, Blackout Friday and all of that, that was a good idea, but I think it could have been done better. Given more planning time, I think it could have been done a lot better and a lot more effective. But I applaud my brothers on their effort. Brother Malik Zulu Shabazz, my brother YG Preach, hardest working brother out here, all right? Along with my brother Sarnetta. My brother Sarnetta puts in a lot of hard work. Listen, there's a lot of brothers out there putting in a lot of hard work. There's a lot of brothers out here that's doing their thing. But I'm just under the impression that they're fighting a fight that doesn't need to be fought. That they're putting their energies in the wrong direction and into the wrong things. All right? We have to plant seeds today for our children to harvest tomorrow, long after we're dead and gone. All right? This thing isn't something that's going to happen next year or 2 years from now or 3 years from now or 5 years or 20 years from now. This thing is going to take time. You understand? For us to get the end result that we're looking for. I'm talking 50, 60, 70 years, 100 years. That's your children's children. All right? Put it to you like that. That's your children's children's children. All right? It's 100 years. Your children's children's children. They need to be in position to be strong. All right? Because, as I said, there is such a thing as it's too late. And we are rapidly approaching that point. So, please, let's talk about this. Let's discuss this. KSP2012beyond@gmail.com. I know a lot of brothers have reached out to me. A lot of brothers and sisters, have reached out to me about joining Comedic Science Prosperity. But I put it on hold for a minute because I had to revamp. I had to rebuild. I got some people that's invested in Comedic Science Prosperity, and I want to let y'all know I'm still working. All right? This thing isn't over with. So, I want to reach out to the black business and economic organizations. Let's have a conversation. Because look, several black economic organizations have had their conventions, have had their seminars, and maybe one or two or a group of people found success through them. But as a race, our unemployment numbers are ridiculously high. Black male unemployment in this country is ridiculously high. Female unemployment, black female unemployment is ridiculously high. So that leads me to believe that all our economic efforts haven't been as successful as we need them to be. And I'm saying we can make them more successful. But we have to come together. We all want the same thing. All right? Let's put egos to the side. Let's come to the table. Let's form a coalition and put together an economic policy and disseminate it to Black America. Figure out a way to enforce it on Black America. And when I say enforce it, I don't mean strong arm. Through education. Through education, we can make these boycotts work. Listen, I want to sit down with people because there's a thing called, and I'm going to say it in my Bruce Lee voice, the art of fighting without fighting. All right? There's some concepts, there's some ideas that I got in here that I need to get out to people. I don't want to put them out on YouTube. You got people out here on YouTube talking about, oh, we need to form an army, we need to form a military, we need to do this. In this climate right now, they're talking this reckless shit on YouTube and Facebook. You got the youth out here disrespecting the elders. Got the elders disrespecting the youth. That has to stop. All right? We need each other. You got one organization attacking another organization. That has to stop. All right? You got people taking advantage of other people. That has to stop. We have to police that. We have to police ourselves. I'm reaching out to the conscious community. And I'm saying, look, we need to do better. We need to stop people coming into our community, making money off our community, then step back saying, oh, I'm not part of the conscious community. Oh, I'm not down with that, blah, blah, blah. No, fuck that shit. All right? We need to police our community. We need to stop letting people come in take advantage economically, and leave it and talk about us like we ain't nothing. Do videos with our scholars and then step back and say, oh, I'm not part of them. Come on, that's not right. That's not right. Just because, we're unorganized. They want to criticize us for being unorganized. Well, I'm here to say, look, I'm not going to criticize it. I'm part of it. I want to make it better. I want to bring organization to this conscious community because we are supposed to be the ones who represent Black America. Us. You understand? The mental descendants of Malcolm, the mental descendants of Marcus Garvey, the mental descendants of Elijah Muhammad, the mental descendants of Noble Drew Ali, the mental descendants of Apis Wilson, the mental descendants of Harriet Tubman, the mental descendants of Nat Turner. I could go on and on. We are the ones that are supposed to be leading Black America, and I'm saying, look, join me, and let's make this thing happen. KSP2012 beyond@gmail.com. Hit me up. We need to put together a convention, something where we can sit down and discuss our issues with truth, you understand, and connect the dots to the future. It ain't about the past no more. I'm tired of talking about the past. I'm tired of the Negro behavior. And when I say Negro behavior, I'm not talking about the petty shit that is going on in the conscious community. I'm talking about us accepting an image of God that doesn't look like us. I'm talking about us continuously sending our children to substandard schools. I'm talking about us criticizing Black people for trying to earn a living and make money. Look, we need to put money in this game. We got power. We got people running around here talking about black power, but they don't know where their power is. You got people talking about here, conscious community, but they don't know how the mind works. You understand? I'm here to put that shit on the table. I want others to join me. So if you're out there and you think I'm on to something, hit me up. Let's dialogue. Let's talk. Let's put something together. All right? Because, look, like I said, there's something called it's too late. And if you don't see the handwriting on the walls, you can read the handwriting on the pyramids wall, but you can't read the handwriting on the walls of your own community. You understand? I looked over that way because I got a pyramid poster over there. But we need to find out where our power is. And I know where our power is. You gotta understand how the mind works. I know how the mind works. Am I a psychologist? No. Rudimentary? Yes. Alright? I know there's people out there that do know. Then we can tell them what we need and they can put shit together for us. You understand? So, let's get this thing popping before it's too late. Sutek for president. Death to the Negro. Peace and Black power.